previous video, I taught you the first two paragraphs of this poem. हमने क्या पढ़ा था पैराग्राफ में? हमने ये पढ़ा था I will give you a short summary of those two paragraphs. Okay? So the poet says that once he was walking by a road, and the road got diverged into two different paths, and he had to choose one of them. The poet says that as he was one person, he could only travel one road only. He had to choose one out of those two roads. Okay? Then the poet kept on standing there and looked at the path very carefully, as far as he could see it. Before taking the path, he wanted to know how it was and wanted to take the right decision. Similarly, it happens in our life also. When we have choices, we have options, but we have to choose only one of them. We take time to think about the advantages and the disadvantages, whether it is suitable for us or not, and only then we take a decision on what path we should choose. Then what happened? The poet kept on looking at one path for a long time to check if it is right path for him or not, and then he decided and started walking on the another path. Why? Because he felt that both the paths were equally good, and he also felt that both the paths were he also added to that he felt that the path was better for him. He chooses as it had grasses on it, means it was unused and not many people had walked on this path. But after he walked on the path for some distance, he realized that both the paths had been worn out the same way. Even in our life, similarly, through this paragraph, the poet is telling that similarly this happens in our life. We take any path or option, but all of them have the same benefits, disadvantages, problems, challenges, and we must face them courageously. We think that we are choosing a better option, but it is not that way. This is what we have read in the previous video. Now I will start explaining you the third paragraph. Let's read. And both that morning equally lay in leaves, no step had trodden. Trodden means walked over. Black, oh, I kept the first for another day. Yet, knowing how way leads on to the way, I doubted. Doubted मतलब शक करना, ठीक है? If I should ever come back. So in this paragraph, the poet says both the paths were similar that morning. तो दोनों path थे वो बिल्कुल equal थे, वो similarly they were good, they were looking very similar in that morning. Both had leaves on them and no one had stepped on them as they were still green in color. So दोनों ही जो path थे वो still green थे color में, और still जो वहाँ पे leaves थी. Okay, so it was they were equally good, they were equal. He decided that that day he would take one path and keep the another path for another day. So उसने उस दिन decide किया था कि आज के लिए वो एक path लेगा और दूसरा path वो किसी दूसरे दिन के लिए रखेगा. Although he knew that one way leads on to another way, क्योंकि उसको पता था ये बात कि अगर ऐसे ही सिमिलरली जब हम लाइफ में कोई डिसीजन लेते हैं, कोई ऑप्शन चूज़ करते हैं और अगर वो वर्क नहीं करता है तो हम दूसरा ऑप्शन को एज अ बैकअप रखते हैं. सिमिलरली ही डिड. उस दिन के लिए तो फर्स्ट ऑप्शन के साथ जा रहा था, बट उसने सेकंड ऑप्शन दूसरे दिन के लिए रखा हुआ था. ओके, लेट्स रीड. He knew that he could go on back on the choices that he had made. उसको ये चीज़ पता थी कि वो वापस जा सकता है. Oh, I kept the first for the another day, yet knowing how ways lead on to way, because he knew that he could not go back on the choices. वो choices के पीछे नहीं जा सकता अगर उसने एक बार choice कर ली है उस चीज़ की. Similarly, even in our life, Once we choose an option, we must keep on moving ahead with that option and never get a chance to come back. Similarly, अगर जो उसने आज अपने लिए डिसीजन लिया है, जो आज चूज़ किया है उसने पाथ, वही चूज़ उसको आगे बढ़ना पड़ेगा उसके साथ. He could not come back and choose the another option. Similarly, हमारी लाइफ में भी यही होता है. जब हमारे डिसीजंस लेते हैं तो जो डिसीजन हम लेते हैं, जो ऑप्शन हम चूज़ करते हैं, हमें उसी के साथ आगे जाना पड़ता है. We could not come back in past and just change and reverse our options, our choices. Okay, so we must keep on moving ahead. So जो भी option हमने लिया है, हमें उसके साथ move ahead करना चाहिए. And we never get a chance to come back and take the other option that we have left earlier. So क्योंकि हमें कोई चॉइस भी नहीं है, अगर हम उस ऑप्शन के साथ नहीं जाएंगे तो हमें बस ये चॉइस नहीं बचती है कि हम वापस आएँ और वो ऑप्शन चूज़ कर लें जो हमने पहले छोड़ दिया था. राइट, लेट्स कम टू द लास्ट पैराग्राफ. I shall be telling with a sigh. Sigh means deep breath, SIGH. ठीक है. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and diverged means separated, and I took the one less travelled by. Hence का मतलब होता है, in second line I just forgot telling you, somewhere ages and ages hence me. In this paragraph it is the meaning of hence is in the future. Two roads diverged means separate in a wood, and I took the one less travelled by, and that has made all the difference. Okay, this paragraph means that he says that in future we will take a deep breath and say that once upon a time he had reached such a point in life that there were two options for life, and he travelled on that road which had been travelled upon by lesser number of people. So अब इसी इंसिडेंट को वो फ्यूचर में एक डीप ब्रेथ के साथ उसको याद करके बोलेगा कि एक टाइम की बात है जब मुझे दो ऑप्शंस थे, मेरे दो पाथ थे और मैंने वो पाथ चूज़ किया जहाँ पे कम लोग ट्रैवल कर रहे थे. ओके, and he travelled on that road which has been travelled upon by the lesser number of people. That decision of his decided his future, क्योंकि यही decision उसका future decide कर रहा है. वो जहाँ पे अभी जिस destination में, जिस point पर वो है अपने future में, that is only decided by that decision only. Okay, similarly in future when you grow up, then you will say that once upon a time when you were young you had two options. And similarly हम अपने फ्यूचर में भी हम यही चीज़ अपने डिसीजंस को रिमेंबर करते हैं, उन मेमोरीज़ को रिमेंबर करते हैं. एंड वी वुड से कि एक टाइम पे वी हैड टू ऑप्शंस व्हेन वी वर यंग. द चॉइस दैट यू मेड that made you what you become of it. So आज फ्यूचर में हम वही हैं जो उस टाइम पर हमने चूज़ किया था. This is a very strong message for all the students. Through this poem, ये बहुत ही strong message है students के लिए that you should be wise and be careful while making choices out of the options that you have in your life. तो जितने भी options हैं हमें हमेशा अपना decision बहुत ही wisely लेना चाहिए और बहुत ही केयरफुली अपना डिसीजन लेना चाहिए. बिकॉज आवर फ्यूचर डिपेंड्स ऑन दैट चॉइस दैट यू मेक टुडे. तो जो डिसीजन हम आज लेंगे वो डिसाइड करेगा, हमारा फ्यूचर डिसाइड करेगा. ओके, सो द रोड्स नॉट टेकन. इसकी मैं छोटी सी समरी दे देती हूँ आप लोग को, जिससे कि आपको सब कुछ पूरा रिवाइज हो जाए एक बार. सो in this poem the poet says once he was walking down the road and reached a diversion of the road. He could walk over one of the path only. He took time to choose the right path. He inspected them to decide which was a better option and then choose the one which seemed less walked over. He kept other one for some other day, although he knew that he would never get the chance to walk over it. He would go further on the chosen path and not get a chance to go back on it. As he walked on the chosen path, he realized that the both paths were similar. He felt that his future depended on the choices that he made. Okay, this was the summary of the poem. I want you to go through the explanation once. Read it twice, thrice, then you will came to know the meaning of it. And if you have any query, you can ask me. Thank you.